All right, it is telling me I am live. Um, so I have like 20 minutes to talk about creatine, and then I gotta go because I have a client that I need to go see. So we're gonna keep this short and sweet and very much to the point. So, creatine, for some weird reason, still seems to be controversial. Um, I'm not going to fight with people about it. So, what I'm going to do is I have boiled this presentation down to resources, like 3 studies. Okay. Everything I'm going to tell you is in actual research, scientific research. Do I have an opinion on creatine? Yes. I am pro creatine. If you have healthy kidney function and you are a human being, I believe you should be taking creatine. And I'm going to tell you why. And if you want to fight with me about it, I'm just going to ignore you. I don't care. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to cite some studies. I went to a National Strength and Conditioning Association conference back in the end of March. And one of the presentations was on creatine, and the things that she was citing blew my mind. And I finally get a chance to talk about it. So let's dive right in. Creatine is, and you'll see me looking at notes because I want to make sure the information I give you is correct information. I take health, nutrition, supplementation, fitness, all. I take it very, very seriously. It's not just a hobby, it's something I'm very invested in. So you will see me looking at notes because I'm double checking myself. So here we go. Creatine, what is it? It's an organic compound that is synthesized naturally in the liver, kidneys, and pancreas. It can be obtained through dietary sources like meat and fish. We store it mostly in our skeletal muscle. There are some other places that we store it in the body, but it's mostly in our skeletal muscle. It is used in the chemical reaction that creates energy for our muscles. Okay, that's very boiled down and simple, but like I said, we only have so much time. If you want to know more about that process, like hit me up. I'll tell you more. As we exercise at high intensity, we deplete those creatine stores, which is why our muscles start to fatigue, which is why we started supplementing with this stuff. Okay. How do you take it? That's the other thing. That's for some reason controversial. It doesn't need to be controversial. All right. So when we are taking creatine, we can kind of go at it 2 different ways. Okay. We can do heavy dosing, heavy loading at the front end. So say you're starting to take creatine, you have some kind of competition coming up, and you need those creatine stores to go up fast. What we're looking at is taking about 20 to 25 grams daily for 5 to 7 days. Okay, so if you want to do your own math, which I'm always like, please do your own math, like double check yourself. What you're looking at is 0.3 grams of creatine per kilogram of body mass. Okay, for all of you in the United States with me who are not on the metric system, for only God knows why. What you're going to do is you are going to divide your weight in pounds by 2.2. And that'll roughly give you your weight in kilograms. So then you multiply that by 0.3. And that will tell you how much you should be taking if you're going to load it. Okay. Now, so that's the fast way that's going to increase the creatine stores really fast. It's fine to do that. There's no scientific or medical evidence that suggests that if you take that much creatine, something bad is going to happen to you. Actually, the opposite. We have scientific and medical evidence that nothing bad is going to happen to you as long as you have healthy, functioning kidneys. Okay, so what's the other option? It's the one I chose because when I started taking creatine, I didn't have a competition coming up, and that's just gradually dosing your creatine. Okay, it's going to load in the muscles. It's going to store there. So that looks like about 5 grams of creatine. per day. Again, you can do your own math. That's 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight. 0.03 grams. Make sure I said that right. 0.03 grams of creatine per kilogram of body weight. And I told you how to figure out your kilograms. That'll take about 30 days to store in the muscles, to load the creatine. Now, I keep saying the word load. Why do I keep saying that? Because that is how creatine works. I have met many people who think creatine is a pre-workout, that they can just chug some creatine and all of a sudden they're going to be able to lift more, they're going to be able to go at a higher intensity. That is not how creatine works. It is not caffeine, y'all. You have to store it in the muscle. That you are looking at, depending on how you decide to load it, anywhere between a week to a month before you start seeing the results of creatine. Okay. Now you can just load it and it'll load into your muscles and it will help improve your performance, okay, and also your cognition. We'll get there, right? But if you want to give it a little extra oomph, you can take it with protein, carbohydrates, and electrolytes, especially the carbohydrates. It absorbs better if you take it with carbohydrates. So for me, I will take my creatine intra-workout and post-workout. Post-workout is actually the best time to do it. And I'll just throw it in my water bottle with some sugary electrolytes. I know sugar's not always bad. Okay. Sugar's a tool, not a toy. That's what I tell my clients, tool, not a toy. Unless you decide it's going to be a toy, and that's okay too. Sometimes it gets to be a toy. Do not take with caffeine. Nothing bad will happen to you. It's not like some scary reaction in your tummy. It just doesn't absorb as well. So if you have to choose between taking creatine with caffeine and not taking creatine, still take the creatine. Just know that it's better if you take the creatine without caffeine. Caffeine will mess with the absorption rate into the muscles. So there are some tricks and tips about, actually information. I hate the phrase tips and tricks. Like, it's not a tip or a trick, it's information. Okay. Information about taking creatine. If you have questions, just hit me up. All right, let's talk about what kind to take. Creatine monohydrate. Hard stop. That's what we have been researching in the science community. That's what the studies are on. It's creatine monohydrate. It's not creatine monohydrate and a million different additives with adaptogens and beta alanine. And not that I'm against beta alanine. I'm not. We'll talk about that a different time. But it's pure creatine monohydrate. That's what the studies support. That's what the studies are looking at. And you know what? It's cheap. It is relatively cheap. So you can supplement this proven supplement without breaking the bank. That's one of the reasons I like it so much. It is effective and it's cheap. I do recommend getting micronized creatine monohydrate. What that means is it's really just kind of like the texture. So micronized creatine monohydrate it's the texture of powdered sugar, whereas creatine monohydrate straight, just normal creatine monohydrate, is more like table salt. It's really grainy and gritty. It tends to sit in the bottom of your cup, whereas micronized creatine monohydrate will absorb readily. Like, I've never noticed it in my drinks ever. Whereas the non-micronized creatine monohydrate, like, I definitely taste the grit. So either one is fine. It's still creatine monohydrate. It's just the texture that's different. Also, make sure it has been third-party tested. Got a lot of jerks out there who are not selling what they say they're selling. Either it's not pure creatine monohydrate, it's not what they're telling you it is, or they're throwing additives in there. It is not uncommon for poor, unsuspecting athletes to be taking creatine monohydrate, thinking it's just creatine monohydrate, and then finding out there are banned substances in it. So please, please, please just make sure that whatever you buy is third-party tested. A great one to look for is NSF, Certified for Sport. And a lot of the reputable companies out there will have the NSF seal. So check that out. Just make sure you're getting what you're paying for. What else? Okay, so let's talk about the benefits. I think the most well-known benefits are the musculoskeletal benefits. We know that it helps us lift heavier. We know that it helps us go harder. And because of that, we grow muscle faster. We can go heavier, we can go harder. We're going to grow muscle faster as long as we're recovering appropriately. It reduces muscular atrophy. So that's important to know for some special populations. Women over 40, so menopausal women, I guess, in the 40s, 50s. Menopausal women can really benefit from creatine, and senior adults can really benefit from creatine because sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle loss, is a thing. It is real and it wreaks havoc on the human body. By taking creatine, we can slow that down and we can then start building. Yes, even if you are over the age of 35, if you are over the age of 40, if you are considered a senior adult, we can actually put muscle on your body. It is harder to do than with a 20-year-old, but it is possible. And creatine is a huge help in doing that. What else here? It helps with recovery from injury and it reduces exercise-induced muscle damage. So it will help with your recovery. It'll keep you from getting as sore and it will keep you from getting as fatigued. This stuff is amazing. Okay. What we are starting to find out is that it is also a neuroprotective agent. It protects your nervous system. It protects your cognition. It is useful in the brain. It enhances cognitive function. So this is the stuff that is just starting to come out about creatine monohydrate. And it's very exciting. There are some great implications here. Let's see here. Endurance athletes. This one's interesting. So we've talked about the benefits with strength and power athletes. That's where most of the studies have been done. What we see in endurance athletes, so your marathoners, long distance cyclists, is that it functions a little bit differently. It acts as an anti-inflammatory and an antioxidant in their bodies, protecting their muscles when they are going through that long duration, steady state cardio, which is different than the function we see it fulfilling in the strength and power athletes. So it's amazing. Like it seems to give both types of athletes exactly what they need, which is exciting. All right, let's talk about cognition because this is the stuff that really blew my mind at the conference. So the brain relies on creatine for energy, just like the muscles in the body. And it generally generates its own. Okay, it doesn't really get it from the diet. Our brain makes its own creatine. When we supplement, and the math for supplementing for cognition is a little bit different. All I'm going to say is it's a little bit higher. It's more complex. So if that is something you're interested in, I'm going to advise you to do your own research on that. I'm not going to talk about how much you need. Just suffice it to say that you need to take more to cross the blood-brain barrier. When we supplement with creatine, we increase the creatine stores in the brain, which gives the brain more energy. So what we see is an alleviation of symptoms of fatigue, insomnia. For women, this is really showing up during our luteal phase, especially that late luteal phase, which has lovingly been termed the PMS, right? That premenstrual syndrome, when we feel cranky, when we feel tired, when we're just not feeling good. Okay, that's not you being crazy. That's not a crazy woman thing. That's a science thing. And if you have a Whoop or if you've ever heard of Whoop, they've got a lot of really great information on it. Suffice it to say, increased stores of creatine help alleviate those symptoms. They help alleviate the fuzzy brain, right? From insomnia. And so the part of our brain that controls mood is highly dependent on creatine. And during that premenstrual part of our cycle, that luteal part of our cycle, those creatine stores are noticeably lower. So if we're supplementing with creatine, we are also able to better regulate our moods because that part of the brain has the energy it needs to do its job. Okay, that whole emotional thing, it's real, that we know why it happens now. And we have, I'm not going to say a solution because it doesn't fix the problem, it helps the problem. We have a way to alleviate those symptoms. This stuff is phenomenal. There should not be disagreement about creatine. It is also good for women who are pregnant. True to form, that little person inside of you is stealing your creatine stores. Okay, they're stealing everything, we know that, including creatine stores. And low creatine stores in mama have been linked to preterm labor and low birth rate. So I will say that if you are pregnant and you are interested in taking creatine and you're not already taking it, have a conversation with your medical professional. Okay, you are a special population, and that's a conversation that needs to happen. And honestly, anybody, like, do your own research, talk to your medical professional if you have any questions or concerns. You can contact me and I can point you to some resources if you would like to look at it on your own. All right, another special population that creatine seems to really help out are, and I've already talked about it a little bit, menopausal women. There is during menopause a decrease in estrogen, which is a contributing factor, huge contributing factor, okay, to age-related muscle loss and bone density loss. Creatine has been shown to act as a possible countermeasure to reducing inflammation, oxidative stress, this is really interesting to me, and increasing osteoblast activity. What that means is bone growth. Now, these studies on women, these are new, which is why you're hearing a lot of possibly, probably, maybe. Up until recently, any and all research on health, on fitness, athletics, any of it has been done on men. We have been functioning on information gleaned from studies of men, and a lot of them are athletic men, so we're looking at men in their 20s. I don't know if you are aware, but women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are absolutely nothing like men in their 20s. So thank goodness we are starting to see some more research being done on women across the lifespan. So that's why there's a lot of this, I would go so far as to call it hedging, is because the research on women is just not as old as the research on men. But what we're seeing is very exciting. Okay, one of the biggest concerns that women come to me with when it comes to creatine is weight gain. Yes, you will gain weight on creatine. You will increase your water stores, you will increase your muscle mass, and you will increase the rate of muscle contractile protein in your muscles. None of that is bad. We have been led to believe that water weight is bad. We have been led to believe that if we get big muscles, there's something wrong with that. That's health. And for decades, we have been told that being healthy is not healthy. We have been told that women need to be small, that women should weigh a certain amount. It is time to let go of it because it's all a lie. And all of the current scientific information points to exactly the opposite. We want to be hydrated. Okay. I've got a son who runs cross country right now. His like mantra is hydrate or dihydrate. Okay. Hydration is good. We want water in our bodies. Okay. Number 2, muscle is good. There are 3 things. 3. I'm really bad at making 3. 3 things that lead to longevity and quality of life: VO2 max, muscle mass, and overall strength. You didn't hear anything about thigh gap. You didn't hear anything about a 6-pack. Okay. The weight that you're gaining on creatine is the weight that keeps you alive. It is the weight that keeps you from falling, and it is the weight that makes sure that you don't break a hip when you're 60. Yes, you will gain weight on creatine. High five. Does it have long-term side effects? Again, I'm going to be a little snarky. Yeah, it does. Strength gain, increased speed, increased power, increased muscle mass. Again, high five. We want those things. Those are good things. They're great. So I'm sure you've all heard stories about creatine messing up someone's health. Like, they're out there. I've heard them too. I have members of my family who are like, beware the creatine. I'm like, I've actually been on it a decade and I love it. So one of the best quotes I've ever heard comes from EC. Oh, look, now I forgot her name. EC Sinkowski. She has a podcast. It's called The Consistency Project. And she debunks and talks about a lot of supplementation, nutrition stuff. It's phenomenal. You should check it out. But the quote was, the plural of anecdote is not data. She's right. Just because you know some people who have stories about creatine does not mean it is the truth, and it does not make it data. Again, if you are curious about learning more about creatine for yourself, which I always encourage, let me know, hit me up. I'll send you some studies. I'm all about education. So let's hit up some of the anecdotes that we hear. Gastrointestinal distress. Yes, possible. Especially if you're doing the heavy loading at the beginning where you're taking 20 to 25 grams for 5 to 7 days. It is, I'm not going to say common. We have seen it happen in studies. Not common, but we have seen it in studies. So yes, that one is valid. And it's usually nausea, cramping, or diarrhea. For most people, not a problem. Just decrease the amount you're taking. It's usually during that heavy loading. Let's see. Muscular issues like cramps and dehydration. Y'all, if you're dehydrated, you're going to cramp. That's not creatine's fault. Like, drink your water. Like, yeah. Do we need more water when we're on creatine? Yeah, you do. Make sure you're hydrated. Check your pee. Is it light yellow to clear? If it is, you're fine. If it's darker than that, drink some water. We don't need to overcomplicate it. Again, if you have kidney issues, this is a very different conversation, and it's actually one I'm not certified to have. Okay, if you have kidney issues, you are outside my scope of practice as a personal trainer. Please, please, please go talk to your doctor. In the same vein, can too much creatine lead to renal dysfunction? Not that we've seen. We've been studying this stuff for a decade. It might even be more than a decade now. And we have never, ever seen, even with long-term creatine usage, damage to the kidneys. If your kidneys are already damaged, it's a different story. But we've never seen it cause kidney damage. All right. My time is up. I have a client to go see. If you have any questions about creatine, hit me up. I'd love to answer them if I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll try and find it, and I'll definitely send you in the right direction too. If you are going to troll and argue, like, that's fine. You can put your opinion. I will ignore you. I don't engage. I said what I said, hard stop. And And I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. I am, if you live in Utah, I am taking in-person clients again. Would love to have some people on board. I do work with women and only women. No apologies. Again, I said what I said. Hard stop. And also, you can check me out online at hygeafitness.net to learn more about what I do. I do also offer online services. So, all right, I'm off. Have a wonderful evening. Maybe go pick up some creatine. You know what I'm saying?